How's it going, guys? My name is Stone, and welcome to these reviews, or welcome back if it ain't your first time here. I know it's not my first time. I'm kind of here all the time, or at least in the interwebs. Anywho, today we're going to be talking about a special album, an album I've been looking forward to talking about for a long, long time. Just didn't have the balls to do it, because how are you supposed to talk about this record, you know? Instead of doing some normal album review like I usually do, from beginning to end, I decided to take a little twist on it. I decided to rank all the songs, all 28 of them on here, from my least favorite to my absolute favorite, hoping it will keep people's attention span for a little longer, but we'll see what happens, you know. I would go into the history of this album, but you may already know they had a Trout Replica house. Beefheart was kind of an asshole. Tumnur playing piano chords, John French writing it down. Kind of cult-like. They ate beans, they stole food. Beefheart's wife or girlfriend would read them stories and some stuff. Pretty wild stuff. Check it out on your own time. But for the sake of time and sanity, I'm gonna just be talking about the songs on here from my least favorite to my most favorite. After I will show off the vinyl and stuff. This is some newer repressing I found at my local record store, so glad I could find it. Before I do that though, actually, I'm gonna rank the sides of music on this album just so I could paint a picture to the audience of what songs I prefer more on this album, I guess. So to rank them pretty fastly, my favorite side, well, I'll just go from my favorite to least favorite for sides. I think the best side of music by Beefheart in general is side one of this album. It perfectly captures what this album is about while still having a lot of variety in it. And then the same could be said about my second favorite side. They really go back and forth. Is the fourth side. The way this album closes out with a bunch of madness, but the way the tracks flow between one another is very strong. Following that, we get probably the most diverse side on this album, side three, which just kind of throws you left and right, in my opinion, which I really enjoy. And then my least favorite side on this album, which contains usually my least favorite songs, as you'll see, is side two, which still has a lot of great bangers, but some tracks had to be at the bottom. I honestly love this album though, for the most part. Even if it's kind of flawed, it's kind of like one of those albums that sounds better the more you listen to it and the more you kind of enjoy its flaws. And yeah, I'll just start it off right now with number 28. So I'm going to try to do some editing to make it easier for you folks to maybe skim through, but my least favorite song on this album, I'll just admit now, the last three songs are the acapella ones Beefheart does by himself with a little tape recorder. Now, my least favorite of these three and just least favorite song on the album is easily Orange Claw Hammer. For me, it's clearly the worst song on the album, but even with time, I've grown to really enjoy it, especially if you're just listening on YouTube or I would say Spotify, but it's not on there anymore. God dang it. But yeah, I feel like as an opener to side four, it doesn't work that well because it just it takes you a while to get into it. The song is really long compared to the other two acapella poem ones. And it does, like I say, it overstays its welcome. Even though I do like the beginning line a lot where it says, like, a thick cloud come, Papa come 12, the match struck blue on a railroad rail. Everything after that, I'm just kind of like waiting for it to be done, but I feel like when you just kind of listen to the album all the way through, you know, casually, like anyone would, it's actually not a bad song. It's a nice little break. If anything, it's kind of like a nice little piece of outsider music, which I mean, a lot of this could be outsider stuff, but I feel like this, just to call this music, is very interesting, and I've grown to like it because it does have a melody to it, but it's just him kind of sing talking. So yeah, I will admit to there's live versions out there with Zappa playing some instrumentation on it. I think that sounds pretty good because it's got more of a rhythm, maybe because they speed it up a little, but yeah, I think something had to be at the bottom. I don't think anyone would blame me for saying Orange Claw Hammer. Following that, you know, not to interrupt myself, but to just explain a little further, I'm basing my ranking off not only how much I like the song, but how much I like the song by itself on its own and how it fits on the record. So with Orange Claw Hammer, Clearly, there's not any music on it besides the vocals, and the way it opens up side 4 just makes me consider it the least successful song on here. The least captivating, and there's a lot of captivating stuff on here. Number 27, Well. Now, I think that it has better quality. Like, it sounds like it was recorded in the Zappa studio, but again, it ain't nothing too special in my opinion. I like the way he repeats the word well, but honestly, I only put it at number 27 because it's a little more bearable, but it's not as memorable as number 26. I'd say the best of the 3 acapella tracks. The Dust Blows Forward and The Dust Blows Back. Easily the best acapella song on the album, and I feel like not only does it have interesting lyrics that make me, I don't know, I guess, want to, what's the term, quote the song on a daily basis, kind of like, in a lipstick Kleenex, or me and my girl named Bimbo, Limbo, Spam, and my most favorite, I took off my pants and I felt free, the breeze blowing up me. From what I've heard, it's about the Great Depression, and I kind of get that vibe from it. And yeah, I think the reason why I have it above these 3 is just the fact that it's the second song on the album. The fucking second song. Like, you hear Frownland, and you're just like, wow, what have I got myself into? Frownland obviously will be way up on the list, but you hear that song, and you're just like, whoa, what am I got myself into? This is a long album. What's next, you know? And then you hear like almost the opposite of Frownland, where it's like still weird, but there's no crazy instrumentation. If anything, it's just the lack of instrumentation is what makes it so unusual, but it still fits on the album pretty well, and yeah, easily the best of the 3 acapella tracks. Now, to talk about the songs with instrumentation, my least favorite of the ones, at least the one I go back to the least in terms of just revisiting certain songs, is definitely Sweet Sweet Bulbs. Like I said, it's the one I revisit the least on this album, and I do like how upbeat it is. Like, getting ready for this review, I grew to appreciate it more, but it's still something I don't find too like exciting. I feel like Captain Beefheart's vocals on here aren't as good as the rest of the songs on here, but I do really like the guitar playing and the use of the drum cymbals. It's just pretty, it's still madness. Like, it kind of sounds like a normal song at first, but then it just slowly turns into like a hurricane of noises, which I think gives it its greatest appeal. And like, I don't know, the guitar melody is pretty good. Like, I'll be saying this a lot. The interplay between Jeff Cotton and Bill Harkerwood is just so exciting, so like fun. Like, it makes it for an entertaining listen to hear the 2 go back and forth with their arrangements. But on this one, it's just kind of like whatever. And I will admit now, like, the next couple songs I'll be talking about are from the second side, so if you're a fan of the second side, my bad, bro, or ma'am. But to get to number 24, a song that I did really like at first, but you know, you had to rank these songs somewhere, is a Neon Meat Dream of an Octofish. I really love the murky vocals and the weird guitar play. Apparently, Bill Harkerwood, in an interview he did on YouTube, he talked about this being like one of the most difficult song he had rehearsed, or at least arranged. But yeah, it's hard to hear though. I feel like the murky vocals, like, they add character to the song, but it's still like tough to really hear what's going on. And to quote my album, I think it says in here that Captain Beefheart plays a Simran horn and a mousette on that track, which, sorry if I'm butchering those words, but I do hear some funkiness going on that is not just in the vocals, so how about that? So yeah, Neon Meat Dream of Octofish, it's still a track I dig, but you know, had to put the track somewhere, so I gotta adjust this guy, make it look good for the thumbnail. Hell yeah. Anywho, number 23, I feel like this is a pretty classic song on Trout Replica, but it's a song that I don't really go back to often, even though I do find the instrumentation to be pretty catchy, is My Human Gets Me Blues. One of the catchiest songs on side 2, and I enjoy it when it's on, but like I said, with some songs on side 2, I don't really go out of my way to like hear it compared to songs on side 1 or side 4. And the lyrics are pretty interesting. Like, it leaves you really wondering what he's trying to talk about. I always assume he was talking about like a a trans person back in the day with certain phrases like, oh, God didn't think to ask his preference because everybody made him a boy. And I don't know, I kind of like, I don't know, with a lot of Beefheart's lyrics, I really just like how abstract they come off. Like, it's hard, you have no idea what he's talking about, but that's the best part, you can interpret it as you may. But I do believe he has some themes kind of circling on this album, especially in environmentalism, which we'll get more into that with those tracks. But yeah, My Human Gets Me Blues, it's a dope song, I will admit, but you had to put it somewhere, right? Number 23 ain't bad, but not to get to some real sloppy stuff, we're getting to number 22, China Pig. Now, I really love the lo-fi blues on here. It sounds like, I think if I'm correct, it was recorded, I don't even think in the Trout Mask house, it was recorded some other time. If I'm correct, Doug Moon on guitar, well, he's the only one on guitar here, and it's just like some cheap sounding like recording of him just kind of improvising lyrics about not wanting to kill his China pig. And I just like how straight to the point it is. I feel like for where it is on side 2, after going through Bill's Corpse, Sweet Sweet Bulbs, Neon, Me Dream of Octopus, you're like kind of like getting worn out at that point, you know, if you're going from the album from beginning to end. But then you get a China Pig and it's just like a nice little rest, you know. It's still weird, like it's still, I think it fits on the album, but it's kind of like a break from all the madness you would be expecting. And I like the tape effect towards the end of it, where it's like boom, 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 and then it kind of goes into it as if they're like fucking with the tape or something. I have no idea, but it's a part I look forward to in the track. And then the pig noises Beefheart adds towards the end or somewhere in there. It's like, it's a nice greasy touch to an already greasy track, you know, just with how it sounds. So yeah, I feel like it's not like an amazing song. It's not like, I don't always go back to it as well, but from where it is and what it is, it works well on the album. So yeah, number 22, China Pig. Now we're getting to 21. Maybe people wouldn't put this song this high, but I personally dig the song when it's on. It's Dollys Car, the first song I think arranged for this album. It kind of sounds like it's just like a minute and a half of like them maybe just testing the waters of this piano approach where Beefheart, you know, do plays piano. He's like, yes, that, and then John French, you know, writing it down. And yeah, I think the guitar interplay is great on here. That's all it really is to it, but like I said, straight to the point, and it's a lovely way to close off the second side and the first half of the album. Kind of maybe leaving the listener to want more. You know, maybe not. Maybe at this point, I don't feel like most people would get through the second half and want to continue. They'd either be done before that or they'd be fully invested at that point. But regardless, for it closing the first record on Trout Mask Replica, it's still a pretty entertaining way. Kind of just like a nice little like instrumental, which I like that. Kind of, it's not like One Red Rose that I mean, where it's like beautiful in any way. I mean, this is really I don't want to say catchy, but it's dissonant and it's chunky, which I like. Maybe that's just the way they're playing the guitars, because I know in that interview I referenced earlier with Bill Harkerwood, he talked about Beefheart always telling him like hit it harder, even though like he had like the thickest strings or something like that. So definitely sounds fierce for it being a minute and a half. But then after that, we get to number 20, the song that I'd say blew my mind maybe the most, or just as much as Frownland did when I first heard it. Hair Pie Bake 1. Now, as I said, I remember this track blowing my mind when I first heard it. And I think it's really just because the saxophone and the clarinet, like that was really, I'd say, my first real gateway into like free jazz, or at least the idea of like playing saxophone and clarinet just randomly. This is to someone who doesn't really play any jazz, but has grown to admire it because of Beefheart's music. Just with the opening was just fucking clarinet and the saxophone. I remember hiking, listening to this album. When I remember getting to that part, I was all alone like a forest, and it's very creepy, you know, it's very unusual. It made me think, oh man, this album is wilder than I ever thought. And fortunately, I mean, I like that opening part, but then it goes into the real like arrangement by the band. and which I think is really good. And I like how on this version, compared to Big 2, it slowly builds up over time. Like you kind of hear it, and then like the way it's produced, it sounds like, you know, the horns are going, then the guitar's on top, then the bass, then they all come in together and they kind of mishmash. And I don't know, I really like how it builds up, and then like the arrangement itself is really good. I feel like it's one of the better arrangements on this album. But on this version, I feel like, you know, it's a little longer, so maybe it's not like I hate to admit it, but clearly like I have Big 2 much higher, so like I prefer maybe the shorter version of the song, but I feel like this still blew my mind when I first heard it, even if I don't come back to it that often. And I also love the outro of the song, which I love a lot of the discussions on this track, like the studio chatter, where those kids were like, "Oh, we heard you guys playing," and like, "Oh, where you from?" "Oh, Reseda." "Oh, Reseda's nice." And I love how at the end he's like, "Oh, this is Neon Meat Dream of an Octopus." Then a little pause, and it's like, "Oh wait, it's Hair Pie." Then the dogs bark, and then you kick off into straight into Moonland, Vermont, which I'm not talking about that for a while, but you know, I had to mention that now. Like, where the song is placed is perfect because, like I said, side one's pretty perfect. The way the arrangement is, like, the track listing is just phenomenal. It couldn't be any better. So, yeah, I really like it where it is in the track, or in the track listing on the album, but still not a song I go back to very often to listen to on its own. Now, into number 19. This is where we start getting the songs that honestly, like, I really will visit on its own and just have so much fun listening to it. And the next one, number 19, is Sugar and Spikes. If I'm correct, it's one of the 3 songs on this album that were written before the Trout Mask Replica sessions. If I'm correct, it's Moonland, Vermont, Sugar and Spikes, and then Veterans Day Poppy, I think. Because I know Veterans Day Poppy has a different bassist, but yeah, Sugar and Spikes, very accessible tune. Even like, especially right after Fallen Ditch, you're like, wow, this feels like something almost like Safe as Milk or Strictly Personal, which of course it was written around that time. And it has very fantastic guitar playing where, you know, they're doing different things, but they're just very catchy still. And like I said, it's kind of like a dissonant sound, which I'll be using that word a lot, so I'll try my best to use better synonyms, but still, it's kind of dissonant, but it's got a great sliding sound to it, which I really enjoy. The vocals are really good, and the chorus, I didn't like the chorus at first, but it's grown on me over time with the sugar and spikes, everything nice, crazy. Just the way he inflects his voice, just fantastic. Beefheart is like one of my favorite vocalists. Just the way he gives his energy. I mean, maybe it's not the best example on here, but still a very exciting, fun track to listen to. But I feel like what makes this track so good is the outro, where it's kind of building up. So I forgot, he's like the navy blue flicker, and then it gets into the part where John French is just do, just going crazy on the drums. Definitely like a part that was well needed at this point, because it felt like there was no moment where they were just jamming, because everything's so like arranged tightly that there's no room to like just jam and have fun. You know, there's moments where they kind of play a melody for a few minutes or a minute, but like there's never a time where, kind of with John French, like there's no like free ability, you know. He's actually like, I don't know, unless he wrote that down too, which that'd be crazy, but it just sounds like a well-needed moment to like release the tension, you know. But yeah, Sugar and Spikes, good track. Then we get to number 18, Steal Softly Through Snow. This song is so bombastic. I know this is also like another of one of John French's favorite songs or arrangements from this album, and I could understand why. I think it's just it has a lot of harsh sounds to it, yet very melodic arrangements, and again, stunning guitar playing. I just love the way they go back, and the drumming is also fantastic, especially in the beginning, and then like during the verses, like diddle-doo, diddle-doo, doo-doo-doo. I can't really do the drum parts with my mouth as well, because it takes real hands and skill, but still, I really like the arrangement and like how each segment goes into one another. And I guess one of my favorite moments vocally on the album, because he's just so bombastic on this song, but is when he's like, breaks my heart to see the highway cross the hill. That's definitely a part I whisper to myself if I'm like having Beefheart in the brain, you know, enjoying the day or something. And I think that's one of the few songs too where it's kind of evident he's talking about environmentalism, or at least in that phrase. You know, he's like, "Oh, the highway, like the hill's so beautiful, but the highway's killing the vibe." I get that, man. I get it. And then following that is number 17, the song that comes right after that, "Old Fart at Play." Now, this song, I could see why people maybe wouldn't like it. Um, I feel like it kind of sounds like filler if you're not a fan. If you don't like his like sing talking, but I really find it to be amusing. And again, like some great guitar playing. It's a nice short, like 2 minute song. And with a lot of these songs in the album, the guitar riffs don't sound like they should go together, but they do. But hey, that's polyrhythms for you. And it just does a good job at it, you know? And I feel like even though like Beefheart's vocals, you could tell like they totally just smother the rest of the instrumentation. I think they still go hand in hand pretty well, especially when they do like the old fart inside. Kind of like it feels like there's a chorus and a verse, but honestly at this point it sounds like, from what I'm aware, the band had no idea how they were gonna record the vocals over this. This was more like Beefheart, after recording the instrumentation, just went in the studio and just, you know, did whatever. And I feel like this song too has got a lot of great quotes from Beefheart. Like this is the song that just has so many funny phrases like, "That old gold cloth Madonna." Like that's something I say so often just because like it gets stuck in my head. Or "Perfume atomizer air bulb invention." And then "All the bees back to the bungalow." But my favorite, probably besides the Madonna one, is the "Peck the ground like a rooster, pivoted like a duck." I mean, the whole poem itself is really good. Honestly, I recommend, if you haven't. I wasn't gonna show this till later, but this is like one of the lyric booklet it comes with. Got a cute little photo of baby Beefheart, but try reading these songs, like the lyrics, just by themselves, and I feel like you could really get a lot out of it if you're a fan of just poetry itself. Because, not to ramble or go on a tangent, but I was listening to this Beefheart interview from 1980, and he was saying something that really inspired me. How he was talking about how meanings become extinct over time, but poems last forever. And I kind of interpret that as in, like, you know, it doesn't really have to make any sense as long as you're just putting words together in an intriguing way that's going to entice the reader, or the listener in this case. So yeah, I feel like this song is probably one of the best songs lyrically. Though it's kind of short, but I like how it's also the track before the closer, because it also makes reference to the title, you know? He doesn't say Trout Mask, but he says, you know, "A very intricate rainbow trout replica. The old fart inside was breathing freely." And yeah, his voice sounds nice on this song. So yeah, number 17, "Old Fart at Play." Now number 16, this is where it's getting really good. "She's Too Much for My Mirror." This song is so good. I had a little phase where this is like at one point I'm like top 10 songs on the album. I love how Zappa, you know, I got the Freak Out shirt to reference Zappa, you know, he produced it. I like how Zappa opens the track with him just kind of saying like, "Oh, note the clever slate, told ya," stuff like that. And the like the transitions on this song go so well, especially at that one part where Beefheart's like, "I'm hungry and cold. I remember my mother told me I would be Tuesday." Like how it just speeds up like that. It's just so good, so fiery. And I don't know, just fantastic vocals on here, and they feel like his vocals are way louder on this track compared to the others, which I really like. He's given that fury, like he's like, I don't know, he's really upset about this chick that's too much for his mirror. Much, I assume she's like big or ugly or something, but I don't know. Or like, "That little fish in a little pond." Just like random little phrases that get me going. And my favorite, honestly, one of my favorite moments on the song too, is just the outro. He's like, "I'll lose it. Oh shit, I don't know how I'm gonna get that in there." And that goes straight into Hobo Changball. That's one of my favorite transitions from song to song on the album. And yeah, it's definitely, I think it's only like a minute 30 seconds long, but it packs a punch for those minute and 30 seconds. So yeah, "She's Too Much for My Mirror" at 16. And then number 15, oh, this song, I really like this song, especially just for the beginning of it. It's just so like exactly what I want from this album. It's Bill's Corpse, especially right after Chuku Cadaver, which is a pretty accessible tune. You have fun listening to that. You know, it's like, oh, okay, this is not bad. It's kind of like Moonland, Vermont. There's some accessibility. No, you get straight back into the madness with Bill's Corpse, where the drums sound like they're just trying their best not to like keep track with the guitar, like din 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 din. Din. I don't know, like it's just so you know the song, I imagine. If you don't, check out at least the first 30 like seconds or so. Just so I guess unappealing if you like normal time signatures. You know what I mean? Like you could tell it's off and it's gonna hurt your brain if you're not into that thing. But to continue with it, I feel like when you continue to listen to the song, it really sounds like everyone is falling down the stairs with their instruments and shit. Especially the drums, the way they're like just fucking going ham, you know? I don't know what John French's approach. I from what I recall, he didn't really have a lot of time to write drum parts for this album, so it was kind of like I imagine improvised in a way. I don't know. It sounds very much improvised, but since he arranged these songs, sounds like he's prepared to, well, he knows what's coming next and all that. Kind of like in the interview he did with this guy named Andrew, like a French composer. Talked about there's like a cross section where, you know, the guitars kind of line up at one point, or there's one point where they have to start over together. So like that was kind of something he used. I don't know. I like playing drums, but I can't play Beefheart drums just yet. But either way, the vocals still somehow work, even though he isn't really singing. And I like the theme of, I guess what it sounds like he's talking about is like someone's, like a some wife or a widow, I suppose. Like Bill's corpse, like Bill's dead. That's her husband. The goldfish lay upside down, and like various species grouped together according to their past beliefs. Like kind of like, I don't know, Jews, Christians, Catholics, stuff like that. That's what I imagine. But it's a pretty good song though. I think the beginning really sells it for me, especially how it's placed after Chuku Cadaver. But you know, it's a banger of a track. So I'd say it's a fair spot, or to have it in, you know, in the middle, I guess. Out of 28 songs, number 15. I don't know. Let me know if you agree or disagree. But number 14, this is where, I mean, it just keeps going up from here. So you know I like these songs more and more as we go through. But Fallen Ditch, man, this song is so rad in my opinion. I love the chatter in the beginning, which I say fits well after listening to 5 minutes of when Big Joan sets up. And I like, you know, the phrase, like, what do you run on, Rocket Morton? Say beams. I run on beams. I run on laser beams. Definitely, I like it a lot. It's funny chatter, but when you put the song on, people who aren't familiar, they definitely are like, what the hell are we listening to? And then they feel bad questioning it when they start listening to the music. The boom, bam, boom, boom, boom. I can't really do it note for note, but you know, it feels like really sloppy blues, which I really like. Just such an exciting listen. And again, one of my favorite vocal performances are on this track. He's like, when I get lonesome, the wind began to moan. Kind of like how he drops his voice when he says certain phrases. I mean, my favorite phrase when he says multiple times is like, fallen ditch ain't gonna get my bones. Yeah, honestly, that's such a groovy track, honestly. It's a banger. Like, it's a song, I feel like, I'll reference this now. I feel like the last 3 songs in side 3 are paired very well together with Fallen Ditch, Sugar and Spikes, and AntMan B. It's a fine way to close out side 3 and preparing the listener for side 4, which, to segue into that, number 13 is AntMan B, a song that at one point was like probably the song I'd go back to the most because it's definitely the grooviest song on the album. It's not as difficult or as harsh sounding as the rest of the songs. And it's got the best use, in my opinion, of the Picaro P progression, which, as I already referenced, the John French interview where he talks about that that drum pattern, like it's really catchy. I tried practicing it, but definitely takes like some skills with polyrhythms, you know, which I'm still trying to learn. But I really like that that melody goes so hard. Like you could do a lot with it, as they do. I think that it's on Japan in a Dishpan as well, and Ashtray Heart. So it's definitely a drum progression Beefheart enjoyed so much as where he'd put in multiple of his songs. And yeah, even I feel like it took me a while to get into it because it sounded like a filler track where there wasn't, doesn't sound like they're going crazy. It just sounds like they're taking time, but I really grown to appreciate the groove, and the bass is really nice. The boo-ba-doo-doom, boom, boo-ba-doo, boom, boom, boo-ba-doom, boom. Kind of repeats that over and over, but it's a nice bass line. And what I really enjoy about this song is after the vocals are done, he's just kind of like playing clarinet or saxophone. If I'm correct, now to move this thing again, but I think it says he plays at the same time. Captain Beefheart plays tenor and soprano sax simultaneously on AntMan B. So that's kind of cool. I feel like the saxophone playing is, well, like that, what he's doing simultaneously really works, and like it's still a kind of an accessible track, but the horns, you know, kind of give it that little yuckiness that I really enjoy, and really gives it that, you know, Trout Replica touch, but it's still like a pretty groovy track to get into. Even if maybe you're not a fan of most of the material on here, like Bill's Corpse or Wildlife or something like that. But to get to number 12, we finally get to Hair Pie Bake 2. Great instrumental. As I kind of referenced earlier, I like this version more than Bake 1 because it's more to the point. It's just the band by themselves playing it. No crazy horns, no vocals to like, I guess, smother the rest of the band, because I feel like I do see that issue with this album, the way it's produced. Like it just sounds like Beefheart wanted to be high, like he wanted to be in front of the band. So it kind of makes it hard to hear what everyone else is doing, because, you know, some crazy stuff on this album. But I guess nowadays you could just find instrumental versions. But regardless, this song does a great job at focusing on the band and the arrangement of the song, which is one of my favorites, as I said. The way it just goes straight from one bit to another is just fantastic. And yeah, very catchy. It's still very complicated and dissonant, which I enjoy. And yeah, basically it really shows off the band's magical capabilities. I mean, I love the name of this band, the Magic Band, because they are so magical. They deserve that title better than anyone else. Sometimes, I mean, what does it say? Honestly, I prefer it too when they're called Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band. Even though the Magic Band, they're definitely their own thing. I'm not trying to say like Beefheart ruled them or like, you know. I'm just saying I like the way that sounds rather than the Magic Band. That's just my little thing, I guess. I don't know. But now we're at number 11, and this may be controversial, but honestly, don't care. I unapologetically love this track. Number 11, The Blimp, Mousetrap Replica. I imagine some people agree with me, I imagine some people don't, but I think this song is just so funny, and I remember at this point of the album when you get to it, it kind of sounds like filler if you're not a fan, but if you do find it funny, it's a nice little break from the madness, kind of like China Pig. With, funny enough, it has Art Tripp and Roy Estrada. From what I've researched, Frank Zappa was in the studio during the Weasel sessions. That's a great album. I've reviewed it too, you should check it out, but that's when Jeff Cotton and Captain Beefheart called him, like, hey, we're going to read this poem to you called The Blimp. Can you record it? And I guess Beefheart, I don't know if he told them he was going to have his band, the Mothers, play stuff over it, but they played this melody over it while he's singing, the blimp, look up in the sky. And I don't know, it's just a very amusing piece of music that's just very fun and kind of innocent sounding, even though I think he's saying, like, tits, the blimp. But the repeating melody is like a sweet treat, honestly, kind of like China Pig. Maybe not like China Pig, but, you know, like, after all this, like, cacophony with, like, 20 different segments in, like, a 2-minute song, it's nice to get to a part where they're just playing just that over and over. And Cotton's panicky vocals on this track make the lyrics seem more demanding, which I like, you know. If he was just kind of reading them like Beefheart, like, if he had read them like Old Fart Play, it would probably be a boring song. But the fact that he's kind of like adding that Beefheart flair to it, but, you know, not Beefheart, makes it a fun listen. And especially when you get to the end of the song, and Beefheart's like, "Did you get it?" He's like, "Oh, it was great, man, but I gotta get back to work." So that's kind of a funny part. I like how it ends like that. And I should also include the fact that there's like, it sounds like there's a saxophone during the phone call. Like that, I think that's interesting, or it's a funny little like add on to the track. You know, you could barely hear the as he's screaming about the blimp. So yeah, great song. Number 11 definitely deserves that spot. If you disagree, that's crazy, bro. But now we're at the top 10. This is really tough because these 10 songs are definitely like the songs I guess I recommend. I mean, I usually prefer just showing the album to people and be like, hey, find what you like, you know. But I think if you wanted like a top 10 songs to start, I don't know, to get into the album, I'd say these are the top 10. Even though for me these are my favorites, so some are more dissonant than others, so depends on your taste. But number 10, Pina. Now, this song, I don't even go back to it that often, but I really had to give it the number 10 spot just for it being, in my opinion, one of the craziest sounding songs on this record. It's hard to tell what the instrumentation's doing because there's so much yelling going on, but I think that's what really gives it its insanity, you know, with Jeff Cotton yet again given his eliguru like voice. Like peanut, I can't like this is like so many lines in here. Like, it's hard to keep up with. But the one I really like is like, made me vomit beautifully and crush a chandelier, some stuff like that, or like that's the raspberries. Just crazy stuff. I think Beefheart makes another Peanut reference down in Ice Cream for Crow. Maybe not related to the song at all, but just in a insane sounding song. A great way to open the second half of this album, even though it really opens up on Hair Pie Bake 2. I guess in terms of that, following the vocals, is just something else. And I should also add the beginning of this track. This is probably my favorite studio chatter bit, where it's the longest of them all, I'm pretty sure. Where they're just kind of laughing and like they fuck up the beginning, so they just do it again, like they know the listener wants to hear it, which I really love. I mean, I love the whole the skit, I suppose. Like, no, you gotta wait till I say also a tin teardrop, and he's like, Christ. Zappa's like, oh, do it again, do it again. It's just very funny. It feels like you're a part of the album experience, I suppose. Like you're in there in the studio with them fucking around, but then they press play on the recording and you're like, oh man, do I want to be in here? Yeah, you do. I know I do. Yeah, like I said, it's difficult to hear the instrumentation, but overall it's still one of the freakiest tunes on the album. So yeah, maybe that's not the song you'd want to go to, but like I said, for it being the craziest in my opinion, I had to put it at number 10. But number 9, I'm pretty sure number 9 is my favorite song, yes, on side 3, when Big Jones sets up. This song is a madhouse. I love it so much. Like for it being like the longest song on the album, I think like 5 minutes at least. The song packs a punch. I love the falsetto vocals in the beginning by Beefheart. He's just like, when Big Jones comes out, arms are too small. And I love how he repeats that like 4 or 5 times in the album. Like, they laugh at her body because her hands are too small. That's something I kind of say too often. Like maybe if I'm hanging out with a lady friend. But it's just funny stuff. I just like I don't want to say dynamic, because it's not really a dynamic album, but you know how it goes from like crazy loud to just like boom, 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 like the little silent moments in between. And the horns on here are just fantastic. The saxophone, like towards the end where it's just really like, feels like they're ramping up the energy and shit. And it's just so much fun. It feels like I want to play on guitar and stuff like that. Like just to kind of get back to that, the guitar playing on this song is so good. Like, it's just such a exciting song. I really want to, it's hard to dance to it, but man, I try my best to dance to it. When Big Jones sets up, God, easily the best song on side 3. It's probably, yeah, the highlights, the centerpiece, literally, I think it being in the middle. But yeah, such a great song. Deserves the number 9 spot. And then number 8, we're almost there, guys. Thanks for sticking with me if you're here. But number 8, one of the catchiest songs on the album. I kind of wish I had put it a little higher, but I still, like, regardless, it's a great song. But Chuku Cadaver at number 8, I think it has one of the best opening jams in the whole. I don't want to say jam because they're, like I said, they're probably just sticking to what they're told to play, but just that first minute after he's like, a squid eating dough in a polyethylene bag, fast and bulbous got me. And then they just kick into the banana danta danta danta. It's just so good. And then the way the bass, like, I love how the song in the opening, the bass is like, but it's like still on time with what they're doing, and it's so cool. And I love, not to keep sounding out the things, but I guess like the one guitar riff in the beginning, it's like bam bam boom bam bam bam, and I love that part a lot. Like, that's some fun stuff to play on guitar. And even when the vocals come in and they start to do their other, Beefhearty activities, it still feels a bit normal compared to what we've heard so far, like Dachau Blues or Frownland. And some of my favorite, again, I don't know. I like the way he kind of talks these songs. Like, it's a fun song to kind of hear him like, drives a pachuco, drives a pachuco. My favorite 2 lines include like, her lovin' make me so happy. If I smile, I crack my chin. And then my favorite line, which he closes off with, is like, her love stick out like straws. Her lovin' stick out like straws. Great little illustration. I get it, straws stick out of cups. And then the concluding jam is honestly probably just as good as the opening because it's very, like, exciting, like, I don't know, full of energy, kind of like when Big John sets up. But there's still more of an arrangement to that where it's like, trying to think how it goes, like, fuck. See, it's tough. I didn't want to play too much music in the back because I knew I'd forget if some other song was playing. But like, and then it's like boom boom but you know how the song goes. It's Chuku Cadaver. It references Fast and Bulbous. I feel like those tend to be the songs that get the most love, the ones that make that sweet reference. But yeah, number 8, but Chuku Cadaver. Number 7, I kind of brought it up earlier, just now actually, but Dachau Blues. Oh my god, this song is so good. I love how it's just one of those, like, a fantastic in-your-face kind of track. And again, the placement of the song works so well. I should say the same with Chuku Cadaver opening up side 2. That works in its favor. But with this song, Dachau Blues, after listening to Frownland, you're like, what the hell? And then you listen to The Dust Blows Forward, and you're like, what the hell? It doesn't even give you a chance to really, like, breathe, After he says spam and he clicks that recording button, just straight into Dachau Blues, those poor Jews. Just the arrangement is one of my favorites on here. It's just so atonal, and I feel like the atonality of the instrumentation really pairs well with the uncomfortable lyrics talking about, people during the Holocaust and the Jews dying, and the children's eyes roll back in ecstasy, crying, please, old man, stop this misery. Maybe some people find it inappropriate to make a song like this about it. I don't think he was trying to be making fun of it or poking fun, but maybe that was just Beefheart's way of talking about it. I don't know. I still feel like it's a good song. It's very, like I said, it's very in your face, kind of like Pina or Frownland. Or, I hate to keep referencing Frownland, but I feel like that's definitely probably the most popular song on this album, the one people know because it's the first one they hear, and maybe it's the only one they hear. But yeah, I think it's like I said, great way to get the listener back into the madness after the Dust Blows Forward. And I love just the saxophone too, like just the way it comes in, like, and I should say how low Beefheart's vocals have been on this song. Like, he's really like the bottom of the vocal barrel, with what he's singing. and I really enjoy it. And I really admire too the first real studio chatter where I think it's like, I could be wrong, Mark Boston, the bassist, talking at the end. He's like, "Oh, they're all the rats," and he was on all fours. And it's like, I can't remember what he's saying right now. He's like, "Oh, and then he thought he was gonna get killed," you know. Just the song overall, for it being like a little 2 minutes of madness, it's great job. Make side one, aka perfect. Now, song number 6, my sixth favorite song on here. This is where it got really tough because, I mean, I feel like it got really tough after 10, but number 6 is still one of like the best closers I've heard on any album. And if you already know, you know it's Veterans Day Poppy. This song is just so good. I think it's because it sounds like a normal track. I don't want to say, I guess it's a little more normal. It's one of the 3 songs that they recorded or written previous. As I said, it has a different bass player, so that sucks for Mark Boston. He couldn't be there for the end of the album, but such a beautiful track. It's got a cool little intro. Like, you could tell when you listen to it, it sounds pretty far from everything else you've heard, like Bill's Corpse, Stackhouse Blues. And it's like, it's appropriate that it's the concluding track because it's a bit longer too, but the instrumentation's still pretty good, still pretty mad. Like, it fits on the album, but you could tell it's a little off in a normal sounding way. I love Beefheart's vocals on this track. I wish they actually went on a little longer, if anything, where he's kind of talking about like a veteran, like, oh, I don't want my poppy, I want my son back, you know, which is kind of sad. And it's funny because I feel like Beefheart writes sad lyrics sometimes, but the way he sings them doesn't really sound sad. It just sounds like, I don't know, just talking about anything else. But after that, though, we get into this little jam part, which is nice, and then it crossfades into honestly one of the like most beautiful moments in the entire album, with the concluding like arrangement where it's like dissonant yet stunning at the same time, haunting and beautiful. You know, the boo doo 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 loo loo doo 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 loo doo. Oh, it's just so beautiful. And honestly, it's just like, maybe I'm overthinking it because for this album, if that was on any other album, maybe it wouldn't sound as like grand. But on this record, after getting put through an hour and 23 minutes of like, wow, you know, bunch of mumbo jumbo, this just feels like a real, like, I don't know, a real pat on the back. Like, you did it, guys. You got through it. Enjoy this little conclusion to the album. And honestly, it still has like a dissonant sound, especially the parts like dan dan and then it goes back into that main arrangement. It's just so beautiful. And the drums again, it's like I just love it. It's probably one of my favorite drumming moments on the album. And yeah, just such a, like I said, so good. And I love this song so much. And it makes me want to listen to the album over again, honestly. It's one of those songs where it does a great job at closing the album on such a high note that makes you want to start from the beginning, which the beginning of this album is also a high note. But now we're at the top 5. These songs are so good. I'll just say now, Frownland is not number 1, in case you thought. I wasn't going to be a normie, but it would be alright if that was your favorite song, though. But number 5 for me is Wildlife. This is probably, even though Peanut's like the craziest song on the album, I feel like Wildlife is the most headache-inducing song if you're not into that style of like avant-garde, polyrhythm, polytonal shit, you know, Beefhearty stuff. I love the first few seconds where the guitars are totally out of sync with each other, but they just, you know, you don't hear it at first, but once you hear it, it's just like, oh, how do I get out of this? But for me, I love it. But, you know, I imagine when you first hear it and you're not into that kind of music, you're like, what the hell? And then, again, Beefheart's clearly Wildlife. He's kind of talking about environmentalism, like, going up on the mountain for the rest of my life. He kind of goes low with the vocals again, like the wildlife. It's really good. I really enjoy it. And the dominating saxophone is just so good. Like, it couldn't get any more unlistenable. I mean, not really, but, you know, hypothetically unlistenable. But it's just so good. And I feel like it's hard to describe it. I mean, those go on for a bit longer than maybe it needs to, but I think that kind of adds to the unbearableness of this track. If that's, yeah, unbearableness, you know, it being unbearable, which I get a kick out of it being that way. But such a good track. I feel like that song especially really shows their skills at playing music like this, because that shit probably won't be easy. If you got one guy doing something completely different, yet you got to be on time with him, but on a different time and next to him, you know what I mean? It's just, like I said, I applaud the Magic Band. Honestly, a lot of these lineups are really good, like whether from like 1982 with Ice Cream for Crow or the Dock at the Radar Station lineup. But you can't really beat the Trout Mask Replica. Like, those lineups wouldn't have happened if Captain Beefheart didn't get Mark Boston, Jeff Cotton, Bill Harkerwood, and Drumbo, John French. But now we get to the song I've been referencing the most, number 4. Number 4, Frownland. This song is also one of the best openers I've heard for any album. I don't think any other album or any other song on this album would be as good of an opener, because I think this song definitely sounds like the most complicated, one of the most. It's hard to tell what they're doing. Even when you listen to the rest of the songs in this album, I feel like those songs get a little easier to like understand what's happening. But with Frownland, it's just like, what the hell? Like, this is crazy ass stuff. Especially when they get to after that first bit of like, that part is just like, that's when you kind of, I lose the rails and I'm just like, okay, I can't keep up, but I'm still listening, you know. And I love watching people play the song live, because that really gives you a greater appreciation of how tough this song is, especially as the ending goes on. And again, I think the song perfectly prepares the listener for the utter chaos that is Trout Mask Replica. And again, like most of the songs, I like how it sounds normal for like a second and a half, but then your brain realizes, oh, they're playing on time with each other, and then it's just like gets worse and worse and worse, which for me, of course, I was just say it's better, better, better. But the lyrics are really good too. I love his vocal performance on here. Like, the best way to open vocally for Beefheart. And I like how it's kind of talking about being happy, like leaving Frownland, even though it's called Frownland. Maybe because it makes people frown listening to it. You might have guessed that correctly, but yeah, I mean, one particular line I love, he says, he's like, "And no man lying." Can't really, I wanna belt them out, but you know, I don't want to get too loud for the neighbors. But basically, yeah, this song is one of Beefheart's best songs ever. I have it number 4 because there's clearly other songs I have like more preference for, but this is definitely like one of the best openers on any album, in my opinion. In terms of like setting the atmosphere up, setting the mood up, it does a great job at telling you right away what this album's about. No bullshit, straight in your face. Take it or leave it. But yeah, the top 3 songs. These songs are so good. These, I mean, like I said, I've been rambling at this point. We're already at the 53-minute mark. Whoopsie. But number 3, Moonlight on Vermont. Now, this song, the best of the 3 tracks that were recorded, or at least written before Trout Mask, but this song is, it's got such fiery energy to it. I love it so much. The guitar riff, the boom, bam, lamp, boom, lamp, boom, lamp, lamp, boom, bam, lamp, lamp, just such a great fucking song. Oh my god. And then perhaps, honestly, I would say maybe, I'm pretty sure, my favorite vocal performance by Beefheart on this album. Just gives it so much energy, and it's just like so good. The way every time he says Moonland Vermont, it's just like, as I've said this before, like, it scratches a part of my brain no other song has been able to scratch. It's like, Moonlight on Vermont. I always like singing to it, but I always try to gruff up my voice, and then by the end of the song, I'm like trying not to sing because my voice is hurt. But like, God, such a good song. The opening drum bit part 2 is just so good, and I think the best part of the song, honestly, after it does, like, I think the first 2 verses, like, and then he starts screaming about the old time religion. Give me that old time religion. Oh, it's such a great fucking part. One of the like moments on the album, one of the best moments on the entire record. Just that part, especially with it closing side one, it's just such a like nail biter. You're like, oh my god, I just want more of this. Even if you maybe weren't a fan of like the crazy polyrhythmic stuff that they're doing, this song really makes you appreciate that they can write accessible tunes that are still like greasy and bluesy and just not like anything other rock bands have been able to do. I wouldn't want to say the Shags because that's a different discussion, but you know what I'm saying. Like, well, pretend I didn't say the Shags. That's a bad comparison. Maybe for like something else on this album, but not for Moonland, Vermont. But now we're at the top two songs, guys. I wonder if you guys guessed it already, but I'll tell you. Number two, also one of my favorite Beefheart vocals. Not my favorite, but I love it for it being unique. Hobo Changball. That song, I'll tell you guys, a little tangent. I remember being on a date with this one chick. This is before I really got into the Beefheart, like obsessed with them as I am now. And I remember we were kind of just, I was playing songs and I was like, oh yeah, like we're kind of just rating them because I like doing that. Like, oh, 1 through 10. Did you like it? Did you not? Because I don't care if you don't, but you know, I like getting other people's opinion on music. That's why I do this YouTube channel. And I remember I knew a few songs from this album, but I didn't really remember them all. And then I had my songs on shuffle, and then Hobo Changball came on. And I remember listening to it, and I was like, in a car, I should say, but I was listening to it, I was like, man, I forgot how crazy this album is and how like awesome this record is. And I could tell like at the more I was smiling to it, the more she was not smiling. I could tell she was not a fan. And maybe some conscious thing. I was like, oh, cool. It's so underground. Then like maybe I'll like it more. Probably not. I'm just teasing. But I did really like that song, Hobo Changball. Really made me want to revisit this album because I was like, dang, I forgot how crazy this album can be and how out of pocket it can be. I guess to give some new hip terms, like you know, because I'm new and hip. But yeah, she gave it like a 2. I think I give it like an 8. Not bad. I'd still give it like an 8, maybe even a 9 now. This song goes so hard. The first like 2 seconds with the like, there's been times I just play that guitar part over and over. Like I'll rewind it just to hear the first 3 seconds. That part is so good. And I love how it goes into the and then it kicks off into this like Beefheart hobo impression. Star Wars claw rattling my jaw. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think the song's actually about a homeless person he knew, but just something else. The drums, like that snare, just really gives it a biting to, you know, like a melody that, you know, they could go nuts over. And yeah, I was trying to think off the top of my head certain moments, but you know, this song just the atmosphere itself is just so like in your face, not as in your face as like Dead Cow Blues, but it's just like so unusual, and again, so out of pocket that I just can't help but really enjoy it. And definitely a song, yeah, easily as I have it ranked, my favorite song on side 4. But honestly, all of side 4 is really great. Besides Orange Claw Hammer, but to move besides that, now we're at my number 1 song, my favorite song off this record, Eliguru. I mean, it's easily the catchiest song on this album. This song is just so good. It's crazy how it's like very dissonant sounding, of course, very atonal, but it's just so catchy. And again, kind of like songs like Hair Pie Baked 2, or I'm trying to think of other ones. Hair Pie Baked 2, or She's Too Much for My Mirror. Just the way it goes from one segment to the other is just so good. And the best example is on this song. The way it builds up after the first eliguru part with Jeff Cotton again doing the eliguru. It's very weird, and I always was like confused by that part. Like they get a baby in the studio or something, but just every part like that part up until the very end of the song is just like 10 out of 10, amazing. Just hypes it up more, especially the part where it gets like all crazy sounding, and then that's when they make the first Fast and Bulbous reference. That is very It adds character to the song, a nice charm, which you don't really care at first until you get into the rest of the album. Then you kind of see, oh, that's a common reference. But yeah, each segment of the song is just fantastic. Easily the song I go back to the most. Like, if I wanted to hear one song from this album for the rest of my days, it would definitely be eliguru, without a doubt. Which is why eliguru is my #1 song off this record. Wow. I did it. I ranked all the songs for me and for those out there who also would be interested in ranking them. You should comment below if you got the guts, you know. But yeah, I'll show off the record now if you haven't seen the inner sleeve or in, you know, the shit inside. But it's really good. I love the photos. It's crazy. I'll admit though, I used to be in a band, and like literally my drummer looked just like John French. I'm pretty sure that's French. Maybe without the glasses, but he definitely had the beard and shit. I just love this photo too. You know, Mark Boston, dude, got his cigarette, I think. Jeff Cotton looking like a guy you wouldn't want to mess with. Bill Harker would, if that's him. He's looking like a nice chum. And then Beefheart just doing his weird shit, you know. Yeah, I will admit it's tough. Like, I love learning about the history of bands and stuff, and I really love Beefheart's music so much. But it's you gotta separate the music from the people sometimes. And from what I've heard, he was a very controlling, very abusive, very toxic guy. So it sucks that like to find that out about him. But you know, you just gotta appreciate the music he created. And you know what? As I probably mentioned before, like even though Beefheart was the guy like coming up with these piano stuff and all that, he could not have done this without the help of Frank Zappa producing, giving him the creative like freedom, but also the Magic Band being willing to help him out and make this crazy ass music that is hella influential, hella ahead of its time. I mean, maybe, I don't know, it's probably ahead of its time, or at least in the sense that, like, it opened the door for people to try stuff like this out. And yeah, it's just so good. I love this record so much. Honestly, it's probably my top 10 records of all time right now. It just sucks that it's not on Spotify anymore, so like I can't really go out of my way to listen to it. Besides on vinyl or on YouTube, but I'll just show this off one more time. I like the little photo of him, and I think these photos are by the Mascara Snake, which if I'm correct is his cousin. So pretty weird illustrations. The the lyrics are all in here, which is kind of nice to have. I wonder if this was really on the original ones, which if so, that's really dope. Yeah, makes it worth it being a double album, you know. I mean, it's Trout Replica. I would have bought it even if it was without this, but you know what I mean? It's nice to have little inserts and stuff to like, you know, read on when you listen to the record. Whew. But yeah, we did it, guys. We did it. We got through that. I know I got through that. I really appreciate your time, and I'll definitely be doing more reviews. I just took some time off to really make sure I could rank all those songs correctly. I'm definitely gonna do more videos similar to this, but maybe with like bigger albums. One album in particular I might do in the future is Blonde on Blonde by Bob Dylan. Either that or another Bob Dylan album that's like a double album. Either like Self-Portrait, Blonde on Blonde, or the Basement Tapes, because I love those double albums by him. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. My throat's giving out on me. Those Beefheart impressions really do something on you. But really appreciate y'all's time. Leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think about this record. I'd love to get some discussion going in the comments. All right. With that said, have a good one, guys. Bye.